No, she did it again. Hi everybody, I'm Beebs Kelley, reluctantly here to address the return of Nightmare Boobs just in time for Halloween season. Maybe that's the point. That's what we're all missing. That she knew this was a horrendous, tragic option with Nightmare Boobs and just an awful, awful, awful tragedy of a dress, and she thought, gee whiz, Halloween's just a few weeks away. Mayhaps I should wear my most scariest dress. Right? That's what this is supposed to be, right? It's on purpose. It's gotta be. Because if this is not on purpose, we are in a real serious dire strait here with Meghan and her terrible fashion. So if you didn't know, Meghan Markle once wore this really iconically horrible, notoriously awful dress. It's a Carolina Herrera dress, and they have had some serious missteps since Carolina herself left. She retired, I guess, from designing dresses full time. And so then we got Nightmare Boobs. That's what we got. And Meghan previously wore this, and it was wrong in every single way. I have at least a couple videos on it, which I'll link for you. At the time, the main issues with it were everything. To summarize, though, one of the biggest problems with it was the fit. It accentuated what appeared to be back fat, the inverted nipples, the bustle. It widened her. It made her look heavier and bigger than she was. The angles of this dress, all of it was wrong. And it was a bright red dress worn to an event for veterans. And basic etiquette is you don't wear bright red to veterans events or events related to or honoring soldiers or warriors or veterans in general. You're supposed to wear other colors. Just saying. So it was wrong in lots and lots of ways. Also, it was way over the top. She dressed like she was going to a literal ball of some kind, and it was a gala. You should be wearing an evening gown, not a ball gown inspired piece, and the bustle attached to it made it look ball gown inspired. Anyway, also her styling was horrible. The shoes, the hair, the earrings, all of it. It was just bleh, the worst. For whatever reason, she decided to rewear it, but without the bustle. Thank God the bustle wasn't involved. I mean, at least we have that. But it's still horrible because the general structure of the dress is still present and awful. So let's talk about why it's so bad first. One of the main problems, the most glaringly obvious problems with this dress from the get-go is the boobs. The original Nightmare Boobs from Meghan Markle / Carolina Herrera, whoever you want to credit for the disaster that these boobs are, the cups and bust construction of this dress is the most unappealing way to do a bust. It just is. It's horrible. It's an inverted nipple cup is what it looks like. Now, it's supposed to be like a petal cup, but the way that it's done, paired up with the fabric having a bit of a sheen to it, Meghan's body type and her foundation that she has to offer it, it ends up looking like an inverted nipple. It doesn't look nice. So all of this cannot be blamed on Meghan because constructing a dress with an inverted nipple vibe is not going to be pretty on anybody. It doesn't matter what size you are, how much you're filling it out or not. Inverted nipple construction for the cup is a fail across the board. It makes me irritated. It irritates me when a designer makes a dress or any piece of clothing that is not compatible with anatomy, and an inverted nipple construction is not compatible with anatomy. It's never going to look good. Additionally, for Meghan, both times she wore it, it gave the impression that she didn't fill out the cup. Now, is that the worst thing in the world? No, but it's noticeable and therefore it's a styling mistake. It's an error that you do not want to have if you're going to be photographed and whatnot. If you're just wearing something, you can't afford to have it tailored, you're only wearing it in person, nobody's really going to be able to notice if you're filling out the cup or not. But getting photographed and walking the carpet for publicity, that's a moment where you want to make sure those things are not going wrong. Similarly, if you're going to be in a wedding or like taking pictures for your anniversary or family photo day, you don't want to be wearing something that makes it look like it's empty in the cups because it's going to be noticeable and look kind of weird and awkward. It's even more pronounced this time than it was the first time because she's lost some weight and thus her bust is going to be a smaller cup size. And so it looks extra empty. It just looks so awkward. in every way. Another problem that we have with this dress is that the cups come up low on the bust. And so, although we don't have boob tissue peeking out because there isn't enough there to be popping out, you know, if this dress was on somebody busty and it was cut right there, you would be seeing boob explode off the tops of those cups. But she doesn't have that much of a bust under there. Totally fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Clothes should fit your body and conform to your body as it is, not the other way around. So it's not a problem with her body, it's a problem with the dress and it not matching her body and the fit of it and whatnot. Moving on. The location of the top of the cup is creating a visual weight up here, this exposed part above where the cup is. And that's accentuated further by the strap. It's making that whole area look ginormous up here. And then under the bust looks extra short. So it's accentuating her short torsoed proportions by accident, both by having the cups not come up higher and by having the waistband placed where it is. If either one of those were adjusted, it would help. For example, if the fabric came up to the armpit, it would provide visual elongation to the torso and bust area, and that would help balance out her short torso. These straps, I have forever had a problem with their construction because of Meghan Markle's wider shoulder line. She's widest at her shoulders, so having a V shape for your straps paired up with the width of the straps, she seems to have had the straps narrowed down. That was a mistake. They should honestly taper for her body type. They should either taper or just be different. This whole thing, it should just be different. I don't even have any fixes for it because it's such a train wreck. But the V shape is only going to serve to accentuate the width, widen out her already broad shoulder line. So that is the exact opposite of what she needs to balance out her figure. Now, again, we don't need to get a garment or an outfit or a dress to balance every single style concern that we have and tick all of the boxes. But the problem here is that not one of her style concerns is balanced out by the dress. Not one is fixed, so to speak, or blended. And furthermore, her style concerns are accentuated in a way that makes them look even more pronounced and out of proportion and awkward. And that is why you look at this and you're like, that looks really freaking weird and awkward. It just looks bizarre. Nobody likes this dress. Nobody. I've never met somebody who in real life is like, I like that dress. No, nobody likes it. It's terrible. The only people who say anything positive about this dress are those paid to praise fashion in the magazines. No longer do fashion magazines offer objective criticism or style advice that's practical or real. They exclusively praise anything that they're told to write about. That's all they do. Because otherwise they would be told that they're being negative or not nice or whatever, or not supportive, because that's just the temperature of culture at the moment. So you can't rely on them. But in real life, nobody likes this dress. Additionally, this has a plunge neckline, which already is going to create an east-west, yank the boobs apart sort of a vibe. And that does not help Meghan Markle because that's going to further widen her torso. Making it look wider is going to also accentuate the shortness of it and make it look like a square, like a box on stilts. So you don't want to do anything that's going to widen your torso or your shoulder line if you have a short torso. You want to do everything you can to encourage a lengthening effect and elongate the torso, obviously. But furthermore, this also has a deep center slit. So you have a center slit coming up and a plunge coming down. This creates an even more dramatic widening effect. It's almost like a butterfly effect. It widens everything. One of the benefits to just a slit or just a plunge is that they can help to balance out your proportions in whichever area you need. Now, if this had a plunge and a slit off to the side, it wouldn't be as pronounced and as dramatic or problematic. But it has a center slit. And center slits aren't great for Meghan as it is because she does have particularly thin limbs and a boxy short torso. The center slits tend to accentuate that and draw the eye right to the torso, encouraging our eye to rest at the torso and thus have time to notice that it's shorter and boxier. Instead, a side slit, one that comes just over one leg, for example, will allow your eye to drift to the side. It'll create a bit of asymmetry to the look overall. It will be much more balancing and flattering to her figure. It literally borders your eyes because she doesn't have a very well-defined waist. You don't really want to have the eye resting there because it'll create visual weight. Even worse, it just continues to get worse. This dress, between the fit and the fabric being stiffer and shiny, creates a billowing effect right there at her lower abdomen area. The lower portion of her belly area, the lap area, creates all these poofs and gathers and billows outward. This was even more pronounced the first time she wore it because it was even more ill-fitting that time. As I said, who doesn't want to look like they have a beer belly in an evening gown? It's not quite as pronounced this time because it fits her a little better. It still doesn't fit the bust at all, and it's still a bad match for her in general. But the belly area is still getting some puckering, as you can see in these various pictures. It's poofing out, it's bubbling up. You definitely don't want poofage. The waistband of this dress is not placed at a point that is going to elongate her torso or help her proportions along at all. Furthermore, Meghan Markle, as we've discussed, has a boxier figure, a more angular figure. She has the broader shoulders. She has the very thin, twiggy, long limbs. This all lends itself to a more structured sort of a body type. She doesn't have a soft, curvaceous body type where structure and angles can really help bring contrast. On the contrary, she has a very straight, more angular figure that lacks some degree of curve. Therefore, she is more flattered by flowier fabrics. Bringing in elements of softness to Meghan Markle's outfits help contrast her more angular structure. There's nothing wrong with an angular structure. There's beauty in every body type. I'm not saying one is better than the other. What I am saying is that Meghan should have opted for a dress that had softness to it to complement and contrast her more angular figure. Something that has flow to it not only helps contrast the angularity, but it brings in an element of softness and creates the illusion that there is a little bit more of a balanced figure there. Stiff fabric, the way it just hangs at the bottom, the skirt just hangs there stiffly. The slits being just aggressive and angular and stiff. The shine of the fabric enhances it even more. The wrinkling of the lining. All of these things add a lot of bulk and visual noise and heaviness that just accentuate even more the straightness and boxiness of her figure. That is the exact opposite of what she needs. She needs something more flowy, the way this lady that she's with is wearing, Kelley. What Kelley is wearing would lend itself much better to balancing out Meghan's figure than what Meghan's wearing. It's a bad pairing for her. It's a dress construction that wouldn't be appealing on pretty much anybody. And it's definitely not what a stylist should be urging her to wear. Color is another positive that I've said from the beginning. The color is beautiful on her. But the rest of it is just heavy, bulky, lots of visual noise, very, very awkward angles and elements to it that are just, they're ruining any opportunity for her to look good in this dress because it's just not the right match. I'm not behind this dress design in general. I do not think that this combination of dress elements is going to look good on anybody. However, if you had to find a model to put in this dress, if you were like doing a fashion show, it would need to be somebody with a very strong vertical line, very tall, with a very well-defined waist. Because if the dress is nipped in more at the waist and the wearer has a very well-defined waist and is quite hourglass, then the angular V-shaped straps serve to further enhance that hourglass figure. The stiff hanging of the skirt, though, would still be a bit of a challenge to get by. Meghan lacking a well-defined waist, not being able to fill it out in the bust, having the broad shoulders, having the angular structure, all of it are incompatible with this dress. So all her main style concerns are incompatible with the dress. Therefore, it should have never have been worn again, never should have seen the light of day. That's why I can only conclude that this was part of some sort of Halloween vibe of let's go ahead and scare the public with these nightmare boobs and this terribly tragic dress. As for the hairstyle, it is too much of a contrast for the dress. The hairstyle looks like a sort of messy beachy wave. I have no problem with that, clearly, because I'm wearing a similar messy beachy wave today. But it doesn't match the vibe of this dress at all. Something more like what Kelley wore that was brushed out and softer would have leaned into the attempt at elegance that I guess this dress was going for. But overall, this is just a really bad option, and the texture of it and just everything, I can't stand it. Even here in this particular picture, you can see the lining just looks awful. It's a shiny satin. It's going to catch the eye, and it's wrinkly and billowing. It's not just, this entire thing is a terrible mess, and I despise it. Now, as for the appropriateness for the occasion, it's not. Just look at these pictures of her meeting this child at the press stop area here, because allegedly she wasn't part of the actual gala at all. She didn't attend it, so she just came to take pictures and then bounced, which is this here picture. You can see the slit is just inappropriately high for the leg, and then the plunge is inappropriately low for an event that's going to have children present. It just is. It's weird. It's just like wearing a backless dress to a school. That's just pretty weird. It just is. It's weird to do. It's also a little loud for a children's hospital gala, something a little classier, a little bit more subdued. This is about doing something nice to raise money, funding for children who are going through injuries or illnesses and those families. It is not a time to try to look, I guess she was trying to look super sexy, but she doesn't. She looks super awkward. Now let's take a look at her posing. The hand holding with Kelley is gonna be weird no matter what, because it's just not the done thing on the red carpet like this. It feels forced in the way of, I want to show people that I do have a friend, because she's gotten so much bad press about being so difficult and not having friends, and all the friends that have come out to say she literally ghosted me. So the hand-holding feels very intentional to just create an image combating those headlines. The way that she's standing here is just incredibly awkward. The entire thing, I watched the video clips of it. I'll try to insert them if I can. It just looks awkward in every way. And this is part of the problem with Meghan Markle's approach to these sorts of situations. She hasn't taken the time to learn how to maneuver to look comfortable and not awkward. And she has some style challenges with her body type. Having the long, lanky limbs and the shorter torso can make it harder to get a good angle in pictures as it is. You can tend to look a little bit more awkward. But I would direct you to Angelina Jolie, who doesn't have the exact same style concerns. Angelina has a slightly more hourglass figure, but she does have a shorter torso and longer limbs. And yet she looks much more elegant and graceful. So Angelina Jolie is a wonderful example of posing elegantly and looking graceful on the red carpet and maneuvering about in the world. Even when paparazzi get pictures of Angelina, she looks so much more graceful in her movements than Meghan. And so Meghan would really benefit from using similar tricks and similar angles as Angelina. Meghan just looks awkward in these scenarios. And what it reminded me of was general star power and that it factor. You all know what I'm talking about. And Meghan Markle, being on Suits for as many years as she was, she would have gotten picked up for larger acting roles and had a more successful acting career had she had that it factor, had she known how to maneuver more gracefully. And so this just highlights that and kind of reminded me of that awkwardness and the way it comes across on camera, and the fact that she seems to be completely unaware of it, is all just combining here in this moment that these pictures illustrate it all. One last thing about the dress before we move on to what Meghan said. It's also wrinkly throughout the skirt, I'm noticing here, and that's just tragic. This is just all horrible. Now, as for what she said when she did a little interview, I guess.
Oh my goodness, the work that they do at Children's Hospital LA is otherworldly, and I think from my standpoint as a mother, no one wants to have to be in a position where you need to go to a place like this, but if you have to, the best place in the world you could go would be Children's Hospital LA. And I have close friends who still have their children there going through treatments, either from high school, close mom friends now that are having their children really have that experience. But the staff is incredible, and the amount of work that they do for families that really could not afford this level of care is something that I think should never be overlooked. So I'm just grateful for everything they do. Happy to be here to support.
Okay, from a PR perspective, it would have been much, much better to say, I'm so proud to support Children's Hospital LA because, and then the trick is 3 points. Have 3 really simple bullet points that are like just a short phrase or a word or two as to why. So that would keep the focus on the Children's Hospital LA and remove her from rambling on about herself and drawing the focus back to herself, because it is not appropriate. It doesn't come off well. It makes her look self-indulgent, especially with what she does next, because this is just saying they're the best. Well, you don't really know that because you're not telling us why. And instead, by having those 3 short, quick deliverables as to why you're so happy to support it, it would have been a much better approach to the answer from a PR perspective. Then she says that close friends of hers, including friends from high school, very bizarre thing to say when you haven't been in high school in like 25 years? Okay, super weird to say. Have children currently undergoing treatment at the hospital. Violation of privacy, if anybody figures out what high school friends she's still talking to. Not to mention, she's smiling while she says this.
And I have close friends who still have their children there going through treatments, either from high school, close mom friends now that are having their children really have that experience, but the staff is incredible.
Very inappropriate and strange. A child needing to go for treatment is so shattering. To have to see your child going through a struggle like that is profoundly sad and difficult and challenging. There should be no sign of a smile while explaining that or referencing that. And it seems, once again, like she's just trying to clap back at the headlines that say she ditches her friends. She has very few friends because she uses them and then moves on. All of these headlines and stories are things that she keeps in the back of her mind as a list of things she needs to counter every time she has the opportunity. Overall, this was an absolute disaster. What she said, what she wore, her presence there in general. It was tragic. It shouldn't have been this way. My goodness. And the fact that she allegedly just came for some pictures and left and she didn't stay for the event, it gives off the impression that she thinks she's too good to stay around for the events or too important for it, which is weird. Now, the theories are that because Prince Harry had been getting some press and said basically, I'm not coming home yet from his trip, she just gate crashed this event to be able to make an appearance. Why she chose to wear this terrible dress, why she chose to answer the questions as she did, why she chose to gate crash and use a children's hospital event for her PR purposes is beyond me. This was horrible from every angle. But leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me for today's fashion edition bonus video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you have a happy day ahead. I will see you next time. Bye.